This is the initial screen that meets you when you start the FlightBriefing application. If you haven't done so already, go to the Settings view in the upper right corner, enter your company name, your username, and the password as given in the installation instruction. Other important settings here are to switch between the day and night mode. You can either follow the device settings, you can keep it in a dark mode all the time, or in light mode all the time. You can also show a user manual with some tips and tricks regarding this application. Or once you have downloaded a lot of flights, instead of removing them one by one, you can tap the Remove All Downloaded Flights button here. So to start using the application, you do as it says here, pull down to view online flights. All your available flights from the system will be displayed. And these are sorted on time of departure, either in descending order as shown here, or if you tap the change button here in the upper right corner, in ascending mode instead. And to find your flight, you can filter them, for example, on registration, or if you know the airport, you can filter on airports. You can filter on flight number, and if you have aircraft attached iPads, there's also the possibility to have a pre-filter set, so only the flights for your aircraft are shown here. But once you have found your flight, you tap the download button and the flight will start to download. Several flights can be downloaded at the same time in parallel. And once you got the flight, you tap show and you're taken to the main menu. The main menu shows you the modules that you have access to in the application. We will start with the OFP info module, which is the basic information with regards to your flight plan. These pages will look different depending on your company setup, but in this case you have in the upper left corner the basic information that you program into an Airbus FMS. Throughout the application, fields that are required to be filled out do have a red background. The other ones you may fill out, but they are not always required. The fuel and mass screen shows you both figures that comes from the flight plan, and as a pilot you can adjust these figures. So if you know, for example, that you will be a bit heavier, you can change the trip fuel and it will automatically calculate the contingency fuel. It will also update the minimum required fuel, and once you have filled out this information here, you can select how much block fuel you want. So in this case we can stay with 10,700 and you will then carry less discretionary fuel. The mass plan below is where you can change payload figures if you know that you will carry more, or if the dry operating mass is different than what comes from the flight plan. The figures below are automatically calculated, and the fuel figures are taken from the columns above. If you change the fuel figures here in the adjusted, this will affect the fuel figures that you will then see on your operational flight plan for each waypoint. The next page shows the alternates for your flight, and if you tap on it you will see the META and TAF and the NOTAMs for that airport. We also have the ATC flight plan in this module, and if it's an ETOPS flight you will also have a tab for the ETOPS information. From the main menu you can also launch your charts application. It will then load the route for the specific flight. it will load your airports and the flight number. It's quick and easy to go back to flight briefing in the upper left corner to the main menu. You can also launch Fly Smart by tap and holding this. You can select which one you want to open. However, in this case, no information will be transferred, so you will still have to fill out My Flight with the correct flight information. But you can go back to flight briefing in the upper left corner. From the main menu, you also have access to the airdrop function in the upper right corner, where you can airdrop the briefing package, which is the information that you downloaded from the flight planning system, or the pilot input, which is what you fill out, or both, to your colleagues in cockpit. This comes in handy if you only want to download one briefing package, or if you change pilot monitoring during the flight. We can also access the scratch pad at the bottom, where you can either use your finger or a pen to enter any information that you need to remember, or if you want to write, there is also a possibility of writing text notes here. The scratch pad will stay on top on any module that you select until you tap Save and Hide when it goes to the bottom. We will then look at the Weather and NOTAMs module. So this is the Weather and NOTAMs module of Flight Briefing. As you can see on the top, we have several tabs or sections for airport weather NOTAMs. We have company NOTAMs, we have FIR NOTAMs, SIGMETs, winds at the cruise waypoints, as well as climb and descent winds, and weather charts. Below the tabs, we have a search field where we can search, for example, for a waypoint on the winds. We can search for specific weather phenomena at the in the SIGMET section, or we can search for something in particular on the FIR NOTAMs. If we filter on COVID, you will see that there is one NOTAM in each section. Company NOTAMs can be searched. Also here, if you know what you're searching for, you can quickly find exactly the NOTAM that you look for. Airport and weather NOTAMs, you can search for weather, but you can also filter the NOTAMs in this section. So if you're looking for something in particular, in this case, let's see if they have something about fuel. There is nothing on our departure, there is nothing on our destination, but on the alternate there is one NOTAM. If we show the NOTAMs, you can see on the right hand side that there are different icons, and if you tap them you can mark up your NOTAM. The first one, the warning sign, tells us that this NOTAM is important for our flight. If we tap it, the NOTAM will become yellow, it will move to the top. The check mark means simply that we have seen the NOTAM and it's not very important to us, and the cross means that this NOTAM is not applicable to our flight today. So we go through the NOTAMs on each airport and we tap the appropriate button. This is not important, not so much. And in the end, you will have the important or unmarked NOTAM at the top, the not so important one followed, and then the not applicable ones. So it's easy when you have a few NOTAMs, but if you come to an airport with a lot of NOTAMs, when you have gone through them, if you show them, you will see the important ones immediately, instead of having to scroll through them all. The same or a similar markup applies to the weather. So we can give it a thumbs up for good weather. We can tap the warning sign for marginal weather, or simply the thumbs down if the weather is below minima, or if there is anything else that renders this airport unusable today. For example, a NOTAM that closes a runway at a specific time. The weather can be updated if you have old weather. It can be updated by pulling down on this screen. New weather will be loaded, and if there is a new TAF that has come, your markup will be removed, since the markup normally applies to the forecast. You can also add an airport. Just tap the plus sign in the upper right corner, enter the ICAO code, and tap done. The airport will be shown at the top, and if you have an internet connection, the weather will be immediately downloaded. If you don't want to keep the airport, or if you enter the wrong ICAO code, you can remove it by tapping the trash icon. When you have gone through all the information and it's time to start the flight, we do this on the OFP info page. So the ATC clearance should be written down by tapping on the ATC clearance. You have a lot of pre-filled buttons, so you can be cleared to destination via flight plan route, initially 5,000 feet, for example, with a squawk of 6550. And enter. You fill out the ATIS, departure and arrival, and normally you also sign the flight plan. Once you get off block, the off block should be filled out. And let's say that we start on time, 1700 hours. The takeoff time is then set at the time of takeoff, and the takeoff fuel. Going back to the main menu, during the flight we will mostly move between the OFP waypoints and the map modules. So the OFP waypoints is a normal list of waypoints. You have once again a search function if you're looking for any particular waypoint, and on the initial page you see the times and the fuels, but if you tap on any waypoint you will see a lot more information with regards to that waypoint. A time check is performed by tapping ATO and filling out the time. And a fuel check in the same way. You have the planned fuel, you have the minimum required fuel, and the actual fuel at this time. Once you've filled it out, you can see that the difference compared to your planned consumption is that you have 63 kilograms more, and the extra fuel that you carry compared to the minimum required is a lot more. So minimum required is what is required to get to your destination and to have your alternate fuel and the final reserve intact. If you get a clearance along the route, you fill it out in this field. And here as well you have a few pre-made selections with normal clearances. For example, climb to flight level 360, and you can also get a new squawk or a direct to. If you tap direct to, you will get the following waypoints in this list, where you can select one of them, and you will see that the waypoints between will be gray until you get to the one you got. However, you can still tap on a beam waypoint and make a time or fuel check at that waypoint. At the bottom, where you have the initial estimated arrival time and the new estimated arrival time, the difference here is on the last time check you made, you will see if you're ahead or behind. Now if we go back to the map page, you will have passenger briefing that you can close easily and reopen on the settings in the upper right corner. Since we have started this flight, we have predictions for each waypoint. If I zoom in a bit, I can also see that I'm abeam these flights to the point where we selected UCB. If I tap any of these waypoints, I will get the same menu and the same view as before, so I can practically perform my entire flight from the map view. We can also add waypoints if we get a rerouting with name, latitude and longitude. Above the Atlantic, the Pacific, where we have special format of waypoints, the latitude and longitude will be automatically entered. But over mainland, you have to enter the latitude and longitude yourself. We can remove waypoints by tapping this one, and if we have made a new waypoint, we can also edit it. The arrows takes you to the next waypoint. Now, if you have an operational approval, you can show your own position on this view. Otherwise, it should be switched off. Going back to the main menu. So once the flight is completed, we go to the journey log module and fill out the missing information. Most of this information can be filled out during the flight, but some of it, like the landing and on-block times, has to be filled out by the end of the flight. This consists of one or more pages. In this case, we also have a few photos that has to be attached. And it's easy to do so. Just tap on the camera and you will be asked to either take a photo or go to the photo library to attach a photo. Once the journey log is filled out, scroll down to the bottom and tap the Send Journey Log. If we haven't filled out everything, you will be told what is missing.